Hello, everyone. I wanted to say welcome. We are going to give everybody a few more minutes to join in and to get here. And so we've got a few more minutes. It looks like people are starting to come in. We've got 28 participants so far, and we'll hold here very awkwardly, try to look like statues until a few more folks jump in to our Just Ask tool, and I'll explain everything, I'll introduce everything, and then we'll be ready to go. So give us just a couple more minutes as people continue to join in. We'll be back. Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Diversity and Inclusion. It's early here in Houston, Texas. We're all drinking coffee. And so everybody, you're just gonna have to get used to it. But we are very, very excited. Today, we've done a few of these Let's Talk Diversity and Inclusion or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion conversations over the past several weeks and months. And today, I'm very excited because this is the first time that Softway is hosting an event with two guest panelists. And a little bit about Softway. We are an organization, we're a digital transformation company that's focused on three things. We humanize technology, we propel brands, and we change culture. And this conversation has a lot to do with culture. And what's interesting is when we met with Kanithea and Fran a few weeks ago, this was a very different conversation. And this would have been a very different conversation. And then the brutal killing of George Floyd happened. And we see a moment in time that becomes this momentous occasion for people to start waking up all around the world. And people to start realizing that white privilege is a real thing and that systematic racism has been around and has been built into our society for 400 years. And people are starting to listen and to learn. And I'm hoping, as a white man, that things begin to really pick up steam. And I mean, that's what our goals are. And this conversation changed from a discussion just around the intersectionality of diversity, inclusion, and pride. And so I'm excited to be joined by these two incredible panelists to talk more about what's going on in our society and what's happening in the workplace and the role that the workplace has for building better culture. And so with that, I wanted to first introduce Fran Watson. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, Fran. Give us some insight into who you are.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for hosting this and having me. Well, I'm Fran Watson. I am an attorney. I've been practicing law for 10 years. I am also an associate municipal court judge with the city of Houston. That's really my day job. In the evening, I work on various issues, particularly the intersection of racial justice and LGBTQ equality and gender justice. I've served in various leadership capacities that really focus on access because my whole mindset is unless we all should have access to the equal access, really, to the opportunity to succeed. And that looks like that in so many various forms. And so anything that I can do to help with moving forward that access, to ensure that we're all in this together and we're all moving forward together, that's what I'll do. So you'll catch me working on doing gender marker changes for the trans community. I try to help with LGBTQ folks that are detained in immigration centers and really doing humanitarian parole. And so it's just various issues because again, nobody's free until everyone's free. So,
come on.
And labor. So
thank you, Fran. We're so excited to have you. Kanithea.
Yes, I am Kanithea Powell. I'm during the daytime, I work for an oil and gas organization. I work heavily with their Pride organization as well, working to be more inclusive in our workspace environment. Outside of that, I am a creator. I'm an author. I'm an award-winning filmmaker. I'm a a motivational speaker. I'm a life coach. I walk various, I'm a dimensional being, as we all are. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on this platform. I'm so excited to share what, to lift people up and see where we can, what we can accomplish here today. So this is exciting.
I'm very, very excited too. And I wanted to let everyone know, everybody who's on the Just Ask tool watching this through the Just Ask platform, you can ask questions. And that's really the goal here. So if you want to jump into the Just Ask tool, as we're having conversations, if you have a question that you'd like to ask, you can ask it there as you're watching this. And you can also set your, set the name to anonymous if you'd like. And you can also upvote and downvote questions. I've got a set, some kind of set questions that we're going to be asking our two panelists today. And then at about the 30 to 40 minute mark, we're going to be opening it up to your questions and comments. And so we have this platform that's free to use as well, if you wanted to use it for your meetings and conversations. But we actually already have a question, and it says, "Morning, Frank, hate to be that guy, but where did you get your shirt?" So I'm just going to answer it right now. So this is Pride, written and signed. And we designed it at Softway, and we are actually selling these t-shirts with 100% of the proceeds going to the Montrose Center in Houston, Texas. So we've got a variety of different t-shirts that we've designed, and we're using a locally owned LGBTQ t-shirt printer that's here in Houston to actually print the shirts and ship the shirts. And you can also pick them up if you live in Houston area. After this, we're going to be sending everyone a thank you email with a link to purchase these shirts, and the proceeds again go to the Montrose Center. So I just wanted to answer that question off the bat so you can kind of get a feel for it. But Kanithea, Fran, I want to get right into it, and I want to kind of set the stage. I want to ask you, from your perspective, how do you define diversity and inclusion?
I'll just say that diversity and inclusion to me means that every ethnic group is at the table and their mic is on.
Mm.
It's great that you're at the table, but if you don't have a microphone or you don't have a voice, it's not really going to matter. You're just filling a spot. But if your mic is on, you can actually contribute to that conversation and hopefully be heard.
Yeah, thank you. Fran?
Yeah, I think just to build, with Kanithea, for me, when I think about diversity or diversity and inclusion, it really is about not having to depend on all of these outside watch groups to be able to say whether or not you are doing well in your diversity, whether or not you are ensuring that everyone is part of leadership from the top all the way down. And that's reflected because everybody at the table that Kanithea is talking about, that table exists at every single level. That it's not just middle management, or it's not just folks entry level, but every level we're seeing that diversity. And because of that, we're all constantly working on it. You don't have to have a group, a diversity and inclusion committee that comes in and presents something. No, you're seeing that this is always being worked on, right? We're always striving to do better. Just like they tell us at work, we strive to do better at work at our job. It should be in every aspect.
Exactly.
Our CEO is a person of color. He's Asian, and he has a quote. He just recently wrote a blog, and he said, "Diversity and inclusion is my mission, not my chore."
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that.
So much.
I really like that
Right.
because that's the ultimate goal here. That diversity and inclusion should be a mission, an ongoing mission that is growing and changing as needs are growing and changing, and not a chore or something you have to check off a list, which actually is my next question is, what has D&I become? And what should it be? And Kanithea, you're going. You're wiggling around.
D&I is
what have you seen D&I become? And let's be honest, let's get it out.
It's a checklist. It's like, I feel like companies nowadays are like, look, we have D&I. Look at this is our PowerPoint presentation. This is the D&I we have. So we don't have to worry about that. We have this PowerPoint. So we can rely on that. We don't really have to implement any policies or change anything because we showed the people at our corporation the PowerPoint presentation.
And that was enough.
Like, no.
Yeah.
I love that you have something to say. I love that you say Black Lives Matter. I love that you say that, oh, we've eradicated systemic racism. Show me in your policies.
Mm-hmm.
Can I
Mm-hmm.
look at your board? Can I look at your vice presidents and presidents and leading managers throughout your organization and see that?
Right.
Is inclusion and diversity as important as safety? When you're looking at, especially my industry that I work in, safety is top priority. We're
Right.
talking about people's lives. When you approach D&I like that, when you walk into that door, going through your orientation, you're drilled in safety, safety, safety. Drill D&I in the same way. Hold that at the same level as you hold the things that you deem to be a priority. That should be right up there with that. When they walk in that door, they should know how you feel about that specific thing.
Wow.
And they should see evidence of that all around them. If they don't, boo-boo, you just working on your PowerPoint presentation.
Hello. Yeah, I mean, it's a marketing tool now. It's a numbers game. It's a marketing tool. We get to say, we were having this conversation a little bit last week and yesterday, but I was looking on my social media and a gentleman said, if what we're seeing with the wake up of everything, everyone's like waking up all of a sudden and donating $120 million, doing all of this, that means that there was the power to do that in the beginning. And so if you're seeing that, if you're saying, oh, well, this is great because now I get to say, we're giving this money or Black Lives Matter. And so I get to market that. I get to stop. I'm looking at my television shows and I stop at the commercial. Look, there's some Black people on this commercial and look, they're giving this money and look at this. This is great. But what have we done in the past? What has happened in the past? And so it shows that right now it looks like a bandwagon. D&I should not be a bandwagon. Like Black Lives should not be a bandwagon. LGBTQ and equality shouldn't be a bandwagon. And so when we see that, that's what diversity and inclusion has become. It become the bandwagon to see how do we set apart. Who's going to make the statement first? This has happened. Who's going to make the statement first?
Right.
And had this mission had we've been continuing to do the work, do the mission, then it's not a race to who says it first, right? It's not this marketing tool.
People would already know where you stand.
People already know.
But now it's a banner on Amazon.com just to make sure everybody sees that now it's being recognized.
Please continue to bring us your Black dollars. Please continue to bring us your gay dollars. We support you guys. That's what it's all about. They just want your money because they know that we have buying power. And in order to keep us as their customers, they're going to say whatever they have to say, jump on any bandwagon, as Fran mentioned, to keep our dollars coming to their organization.
But then what happens when we go into the organization for the people that are working for the organization? So what are we seeing that's happening with them? If we're spending our dollars there, but we see that folks are not being promoted, folks are not being hired, folks are not even getting an interview, then that is a situation, right? And so what happens behind the scenes?
Right. Especially if you have a very ethnic name.
The studies are there. Kanithea, you know that. The studies are there.
Let me lean in a little bit.
Yeah. If that name is not white, that resume, gets turned over. And we see this. I mean, the studies are here, and it's also very disappointing because you're working and they say, oh, make sure that your resume pops because they look at it for the first 5 minutes or the first 5 seconds. But then if the first second they see an ethnic looking name, then that resume gets thrown to the, next pile.
I literally have friends, if you have an ethnic first name, they'll put an initial and put the more white sounding name up there in the middle. I mean, these are things that people have to do just to get your resume looked at, just to get your foot in the door, to wow them with your presence and your knowledge or what have you. So it's just very interesting.
Golly.
Very interesting.
I wanted to actually jump in really quickly because there was a question that just came in through Just Ask, and I want to kind of break in and ask this. It says, Kanithea, you bring up a good point about safety. Do you have any thoughts on whether D&I can impact or improve safety?
Yeah, I mean, people want to feel safe in their environment. We spend a lot of time at work. We give up a lot of our hours dedicated to an organization. If we don't feel safe in that space, And that goes across a lot of things, like feeling safe to raise our hands, to offer up a solution to a problem. If someone is crossing the line, feeling safe in that environment so that you can say something. I mean, it expands across the line with all of that. I mean,
and it's also psychological safety, right? Like, we're not just talking about physical safety. We're talking about someone feeling whole,
right?
Someone feeling complete,
right?
And being that full person. I know that's something that you talk a lot about. Is being who you are.
Right. Being unique, being able to carry your whole self into a space and contribute and give the gifts, share the gifts that you have with the corporation that you decided to join.
Right.
I mean, that is beyond.
So think about the impact that people could make if they brought their whole selves to work. If they weren't afraid to share the crazy idea in the conversation without being looked at differently. Right.
That's what we're here for, to share ideas, to bring our uniqueness, our beauty to this organization to help make it better. That's why we're there. If we don't feel safe enough to do that, what's the point?
Yeah. Right. And you're not seen. You need to be seen, because what happens if you're not even seen and you have these ideas, you give you're talking about this, and what happens? Someone else gets the credit. Or if you happen to be in these meetings and you're speaking up, but because there's a culture of a person not being seen, someone else could say your idea and they acknowledge that person before they would acknowledge the person that actually gave the idea.
And oftentimes that happens in the room.
Yeah.
Because your voice isn't heard. I think there was a FedEx commercial where the guy said, "Hey, we could use FedEx." And everybody was like, Then the big guy said, "You know what? We could use FedEx." That's a great idea.
Yeah, see?
Wow.
And I think safety comes with empowerment as well.
Yeah.
Part of it is if you have, it's how much is the D&I committee team, I don't have D&I, I'm a solo practitioner, but how much is that committee empowered when these things happen? How much leeway is given? How much can the people feel like? Because if the D&I committee is just window dressing or just name only, then the employees aren't going to be able to come and talk to them, because they know when they take the information up higher, that nothing's going to happen.
Right.
I can talk about a company, I don't want to say their name, but they worked diligently, and now what has happened is they continue to work using their political capital, using what they have, and now there are trans rights that are in there because they made sure that their committee had teeth and that it was going to be, that they would be empowered. And so now people do feel safe coming to talk to them. But I know that's not always the case. But I think having this dialogue and opening all this up and the culture changing in the community, because I think part of it with work is that we're compartmentalized, right? All this stuff is happening, but when you get in those work doors, when you walk through those doors, that's off, that's somewhere else, right? But we can't. Yeah.
Exactly. You're absolutely right, Fran. If you're not empowering your employees, if you're not appreciating and respecting their uniqueness, their diversity, and allowing them to explore that in a safe space, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
We spend more time work hours. We spend more time with colleagues during awake hours than we do with our own families.
Right.
Yeah.
So for companies that say this doesn't have a place here, you're missing the biggest chunk of awake time with other people, right? I want to talk about LGBTQ issues and the two of you to speak to a little bit of what are some of those issues that you're seeing. What are some of those LGBTQ issues that you're seeing in your world?
Oh my God. Where do you start? I mean, the constant harassment. I mean, our beautiful trans men and women that are suffering with healthcare, with just basic rights of using a bathroom. Like, it just goes on and it just goes on. The discrimination, baking a cake, get the cake made for your wedding. Like, oh my God, being able to marry the person that you love without judgment, without having to jump over hoops, in the crazy looks or housing or adoption. I mean, the list just goes on and on.
Right.
Yeah.
And
when our humanity,
right.
Yeah, no. When our humanity has to be decided by court cases, we had this big victory this week because, now LGBTQ workers are a protected class. You can't just fire someone because they're gay and transgender. But that had to be decided by the highest court in the land.
And why
humanity?
Why do we have to go to that length for just something that's
basic human rights?
Inhuman.
Yeah. And so how does that play out? We see inconsistencies, right? And so while you may be in a place in a county where you have talking about gender marker changes, because when someone has their documentation that matches their gender, then they're able to have economic empowerment, which then goes, so there's all of this to it.
Right.
But if you live in a county where the judges are not friendly and then those gender marker changes aren't granted, then you have to go to other counties. You have to do this. But why don't we have consistency? One, why am I having to do this with the judge? But if I live in a place where where it's not friendly, where it's not even that it's not friendly, but where I'm not even acknowledged, right? Then we know there's a fear, there's a cost, there's all of this that has to go, this lack of safety to go and be able to get the documentation needed just for people to live be able to be their true selves on paper as well.
Right. Walking in your authentic truth is a revolutionary act.
Yeah.
At any given moment, someone could try to harm you for just being you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, all of these babies being murdered just for being who they are. I mean, it's a revolutionary act. I give it up. It takes so much courage to walk in your truth.
Yeah.
I have so much love for our trans brothers and sisters, our LGBTQ people, our African-American people, just anyone that's courageous enough to walk in their authentic truth. I mean.
So,
yeah.
Kanithea, I know you work for an oil and gas organization. How are LGBTQ issues showcased or promoted in that space for you? Because I know that space is distinct.
I have to say, Pride is I would say Pride is the #1 ERG on our campus. I'm vice president of that Pride organization. My president, big ups to Trish. We just move through. We don't take no for an answer, really.
Yeah.
You come on campus during Gay Pride Month. I'm doing Pride Month. We have gay flags all across the front of the campus. We're
like, let's go snap it.
We're leading the way. We're gonna bring our float on campus, so you can see our float that we're gonna be in the parade with. We're gonna have a dance party, and get as many people involved as we can. It's a constant work. It's a job. I wouldn't say it's a job. It's a constant work. We're constantly reaching out, extending our hands, working to collaborate with everybody that we can collaborate with, because we intersect in all communities. Pride is one of the most diverse communities there is, So our goal is to extend our hand, unclenched, and pull you in if we can to get you on our side, so we can expand and get people to think more inclusively and to be more loving, accepting beings.
Yeah.
At least while you're at work.
Yeah. While you're at work.
We've done some really great things. We've gotten all of our single-stall bathrooms changed into gender-neutral bathrooms. Yeah. Little small wins across. It's a jump, but we're steadily working, and we're not taking no for an answer.
That's good.
You want help? We'll find someone who will.
Yeah. That's so awesome. Because you brought up such a good point when you're thinking about this. LGBTQ people are part of every single issue that we talk about. And 40 years ago, we were labeled as a mental illness, right? And so now to see this work, every step is a step, because you're doing this in corporate America. And we just got these labels off. And so now you saying, look, we're going to keep moving. And then make sure. And so I commend your work in the ERG. Right. That's so cool.
That's awesome. And actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about the workplace a little bit more in regards to leaders. And I want to ask you both, what has a leader done for you that has made a lasting impression?
Well, I'll say that I won't name names, but I'll say one of my old bosses had an incident at work, and you know, he was struggling with it a little bit, but I saw that he was really trying to make a change and be better and do better. You know, I pulled him aside after one of our meetings and acknowledged that and told him that, you know, I see you. I appreciate the work that you're putting in. Not everybody can get something, a bad review or what have you, and turn it around and really work to be better. But I see that you're willing to step up and do the work. And I want you to know that I appreciate that. You know, that means a lot to me. You know, he stood in that space and he cried. And I was happy in that moment because I felt like I provided him a safe space to be vulnerable and to have an honest, authentic conversation.
Yeah.
And I love that he was so willing to share that with me.
Right.
After that, just a couple of days ago, actually, he gave me a call when all of the, after George Floyd, the Black Lives Matter movement has been moving so rapidly. But he said, I took a few days to think about my actions, my contributions, things I have done to not be on the up and up. And I want you to know that I'm sorry. If I've ever done anything to you, if I've ever said anything to you that wasn't the right thing to say and do, I want you to know that I'm sorry for that. I appreciated that, you know, because not everybody's willing to take that journey inside themselves and see their fault, you know, and on the other side of that, it's also hard to receive that because this affects your career. That's your money, you know? So,
yeah.
You know, and you made a different choice for me. And I don't know what prompted you to make that choice, but you did. But I choose to be a loving human being, no matter what.
Yeah.
I choose to be a kind human being, no matter what. So it's a constant practice for me to sit in that space, to accept that conversation and be like, okay, if I were going to move from a space of love, how would I respond to that? And that's a constant practice for me. But I chose in that moment, and I use that word intentionally, I chose in that moment to be a loving human being. And I think of myself as the trees in the fall. They release the things that no longer serve them. I chose in that moment to release that because it didn't serve me.
Wow.
It only hurts me to hold on to such anger and animosity. That doesn't serve me at all. Yeah. I'm going to look forward and I'm going to tell him, move forward and be a good human being to people who don't look like you, who don't have the same access, the same wealth. Just be a decent human being. Don't see them as a black person or black whatever. Acknowledge that because that's what it is. But just be a loving human being. And that's all I can tell you. Thank you for reaching out to me. I appreciate it. I love that you found me safe to be vulnerable and authentic. And I'm glad that I opened up the door to allow you to come in and have that conversation with me and know that it would be okay to do that. But go forward and be a better human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So for me, when I think about it, it all goes back to why it is so important to think about our workplace strategies on recruitment when we're talking about inclusivity and being inclusive, like from recruitment to promotion to hiring. The leader that helped me is the catalyst as to how I'm able to sit in front of you today. There was a system that really gave up on me. I was expelled from high school when I was expelled from high school in the 10th grade. And so I had to kind of navigate my way back to where I am. I took my GED test, and I took my GED test at a school, at college. And I took my GED test at college because it was on the bus line. And so a few months later, I was able to get my scores. And so when we see the system that gave up on me and let me fall through the cracks, this woman, this non-Black woman saw me, this Black person saw my potential, looked at my scores and said, you should probably enroll in college. You may be able to get a scholarship.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't even know what you're talking about. Next thing you know, this woman walked me over to the registration desk. 3 months later, I'm sitting in a intro to psychology class. I graduated magna cum laude from college. I graduated magna cum laude from law school. And now I've been serving as an attorney for 10 years. And so when we think about it, it's like, there is a way that you can help, that you can look and to make sure that you recognize that people's that Black people, that LGBTQ people, that brown people, that we have our merit, but you got to see past your bias, and you got to see past that, those systems of trying to keep people back, because folks do work and folks are trying to work. But if we can't get past the way folks look, then this is why we continue to be in this, these predicaments. And so because she looked at me and my score, she looked at what my potential, I am here today doing this.
It's beautiful.
Wow. Thank you so much. I want to ask, what advice would you tell Black women, young Black women that are entering the workforce, or that are stepping into an opportunity? What would your advice be to them?
I personally would tell them to focus on your strengths, because that's what got you where you are.
Come on.
Focus on that. Learn to advocate for yourself, and don't allow people to cheapen you, because they will try. They will definitely try. Don't allow that. Know your value, know your worth. You are enough. You came here enough. You will always be enough. And you don't owe anybody anything, nor do you have to explain anything to anybody. You are you. That's enough. The last thing I'd say is to find you an ally or a sponsor, someone who's willing to speak your name when you're not in a room, that believes in what you can accomplish. Because a lot of times when you're talking about moving up through a space, you're not in those rooms where those conversations are being had. So get you a good sponsor or ally who believes in you, who's willing to stand up and speak your name in that room that you're not in.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you talk about bootstraps and folks say pull yourself up by your bootstraps, no one's pulling themselves up by their bootstraps.
Someone people have boots.
Hello, because someone's always talking to you. Someone's always, people have connected. People are on the golf course, right? These white folks are on the golf course doing these things, and so that guy has a sponsor. So here's the thing. They have sponsors already. So we should be able to get sponsors too. And as young Black women, again, just like Kanithea said, just use your strengths. Connect with someone. I think that is key. And know your value. Don't be afraid to ask, for that raise, or when you're talking about we're so told that we have to be humble, we have to be humble. But it is a time for you to brag on yourself and to make sure that the work that you put in to make this company dollars, the work you put in to help this company innovate, that needs to be documented and it needs to be told. And so I think making sure that you speak to your strengths, because people will take it away from you. And like you just said, Kanithea, people will try to devalue you.
Exactly. Wow. I mean, that's I call it the 3 Ds. People will, when you'll see it in any genocide, you see it in any cop killing, I call the first thing they're going to do is just try to discredit you.
Yes.
If they can destroy your credibility, then they're going to go to, they're going to discredit, they're going to dehumanize you. Oh my God, they were animals. Oh my God. So yeah, it's an animal, that they're not human. So they can ultimately destroy you. So they say, oh, I just rid you of the bad thing that was happening to us. So we don't have to, and they justify everything they do by those 3 Ds. Know your value, know your worth. And don't be afraid to reach out to someone who doesn't look like you or come from where you come from. Sweetie, when you look up the ladder, none of us are there. You need that, you need that help. So don't be afraid to step out and ask for that. Find someone who sees you and your value and is willing to speak to it. So yeah,
I actually want to talk about mentorship versus sponsorship, and ask, how do we get Black people and LGBTQ people to connect with leadership? What's that starting from?
I know on for us at our company, we have a mentorship program that people can sign up to, and they connect you with mentors, and you get to see what line of business they're in, and you have like a test period too. So you can say, okay, so this relationship works. So I think also, first off, it's important to know the difference between a mentorship and a sponsorship. Your mentor is great for beginners. If you're starting your career, they're going to advise you, help you along the way. Your sponsor is the person that's going to elevate you. They're the people that are going to move you forward in your career. That's a completely different relationship. So be sure to know the definition of both of those and be able to differentiate which one you're working with.
Right.
You know, it's great. I mean, getting you a good mentor who's dipped in experience in where you want to go, so they can help you avoid pitfalls if you can, is very important. But when you get that sponsor, you've gotten the proper advice from your mentor, you can take that and walk to that sponsor and say, this is what I have to offer. Now, you have to deliver on the goods, but utilize that relationship as much as you can. And don't be afraid if you're different. That's what's beautiful about you. I mean, we're not all robots.
Yep.
Sometimes you walk on campus and you think that because
everybody wears the same thing.
Same outfit. What is that? It's so.
Why are you wearing the same clothes?
That's why I'm getting that Pride shirt.
Come on.
Right. It's so weird. You know, don't be afraid to stand out. That's what's beautiful about you.
Yeah.
So, and walk into those relationships with confidence. And if someone doesn't work for you, don't be afraid to just be like, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Moving on. This is about your career and your growth.
Yeah.
Yo, I always, every time you say, Kanithea, about like being you, we're different. When I was first kind of started out, you know, I'm a very loud person. Like, people say this all the time. They say, Fran, I hear you a mile away. I hear you a mile away. And at first I used to try to like make myself quieter or try to do this. And now I embrace it. And when they're like, I hear you a mile away, I say, good. Did you hear what I had to say? Like, you know, so,
did you get that?
Did you get it? Did you catch it? And so I think it really is about being who you are. And now people get excited. They'll go, oh, I heard you from a mile away. I heard that laugh, or I heard something. And so it's just embracing who we are and why, you know, and using that and just kind of using that, because we are each, you know, we're each different. We're each different. Each one of us carries something different. And so it's just, we have to be able to embrace that and not be this us versus them, but us, all these differences working together.
I love it. And thank you both so much. Now what I want to do is, first of all, we should just continue this conversation. This should just be the rest of the day. Anybody else do anything? I love it. But now we actually have quite a few questions that are streaming in through the Just Ask tool. And I want to just start bringing those up for you. So I'm going to bring them up, and whoever wants to tackle them can tackle them. So the first question that I have here is, how can those at a lower level approach management regarding actively implementing D&I without compromising their employment?
So I think part of it is finding, it's again, the sponsor. A lot of these, and Kanithea, correct me if I'm wrong, but these ERGs and different committees have executive sponsors.
They do.
Right. And so it's pointing out the person that you're seeing having these conversations. You know, it takes a little groundwork. So it's pointing out these conversations, listening to what people are talking about, and finding that person so that you would have the ally in your corner, because it goes back to the sponsorship. I think having that ally in your corner to be able to take this to management with you. That's how the Pride ERG was started at my wife's company, having a conversation, you know, figuring out that activism is not just outside of the workplace, but within as well, and having to get things going forward. And so she looked around and was talking to folks at meetings and at trips and this, and then she walked up to the executive sponsor at the time and said that this is something that she wanted to start. And so 3 or 4 people got together. And so it's about 4 folks got together with the sponsor, and then they took it to management. So it's you not having to work alone, but finding your crew, finding a group to be able to take this to management.
Right.
Yeah,
I'll just pause there to say, where 3 or more are gathered.
Hello.
Magic happens.
Yeah.
You know, like Fran said, reaching out to your ERGs. If you don't have an ERG, reach out to your human resources department and express your interest in exploring more D&I efforts. Sometimes your human resource department will actually start that effort for you if they see that there is a need. Sometimes, unfortunately, they don't see these things. So it's up to you to bring it to their attention. It's something you would like to see as an employee of the organization. Wow. And if they don't, and most people see that as a way of moving their company forward and being more inclusive. So, you know, find your group, find your people, get your allies, tap into your human resources department and your ERGs, and use that as a resource to push forward. Join the ERG. I started in my pride group as a member at large. And I'm gonna spill some tea and be real honest. They didn't want me in that group when I first showed up because I was the only person in that group who looked like me. I got in there. To be honest, I really only joined so I can sit with gay boys and be like, oh my God, did you see her outfit? That's the only reason at first.
Well, it's kind of,
that's a little piece of tea for you. But when I got in and saw how my gayness is set up, when I got in and saw that it was just like, oh, so you don't want me here. Okay, so I guess I'm going to stay. And I guess I'm going to start leading everything. I'm going to put in that suggestion for that. Oh, that's a great idea. You don't want to do it? I'll lead it. And from that, I moved up into being vice president of this organization. I led everything. I worked hard. I showed up at everything. Boo-boo, you're going to see me. I'm going to be visible. And, you know, there you pause to say that the same inequalities that exist out in the world exist in the LGBTQ community. A lot of times they don't want to see Black and brown people. Not that day, though.
Not that day.
Who they saw. And I'm still pulling people who look like me up. A lot of times you have, they'll put out stuff through our pride organization. There's absolutely no diversity. And what's funny, this is an oil and gas thing. They'll say, oh, we have diversity. We got an Australian. We got a Thai person. We have a Brazilian. Really? But yeah.
Anyway. Friends, like, turn the fan back on, friend. There you go.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I see you. Okay.
So and actually this next question that's on Just Ask is kind of leans into that a little bit. So it says, sometimes it feels like there's only space for one dimension. And one dimension of diversity within the D&I conversation internally inside of companies. Leaders tend to have a flavor of the month, with Black Lives Matter being the current flavor of the month. So how can LGBTQ plus and Black Lives Matter and so many other communities help these leaders understand that each of these are important?
Right. I think the work of ERGs that are doing this, having a lot of sponsored, events where they're all coming together and really showing that it's not about a flavor of the month. I know that there are 4 different groups at this one company I went to speak to on Pride issues. And what they do is they sponsor all of these different events together, because what they want to show is that that it's not about lifting one group up and putting one group down, but it's showing that inclusion means recognizing all of these differences. And so I think being able to have leadership from all of these various groups or ERGs or organizations or committees within the companies is being able to, having that, what do you call it? Not collaboration, but I think it is collaboration, but I'll come up. The word will come to me in a second.
Feel free to interrupt anybody. If you find it, you're like, here's the word, do that.
Coalition.
2 minutes ago, remember?
With having a coalition, where it speaks volumes, right? So it's numbers, right? So having a coalition and having that intersectional coalition, multicolored, multi-issued coalition really builds bridges.
And so it pulls that flavor of the month style that people are so familiar with, because I'll stop there.
Perfect.
I'll stop there.
I mean, perfect.
I want to ask. This is actually more of a statement in this, Fran, to some of the things that you deal with on a daily basis in the legal system. It says, "Fought in a small county for my nephew, and unfortunately, because I am LGBTQ, the judge wouldn't rule in my favor, even though there was a big case and it was evident that it was in the best interest that the child be with me. Sad how corrupt the system still is."
Yeah, and it goes exactly what we were talking about. We had a case where there was an old judge, and the person, 4 people would come into the case, and it was like different hearings. And one of the people were trans, and the judge would always rule against the hearing. It could be a simple hearing, just some little, just a hearing about asking for a motion to compel, just asking you to give some answers to some questions, right? And the one day that the trans person wasn't in the room, all of a sudden their hearing was granted. And so it just shows that all of this bias and all this is still exists.
Yeah, man. So here's a question from Eric. It says, would you say that diversity and inclusion is designed to bring actual integrity?
Can you repeat that?
Question was, would you say that diversity and inclusion is designed to bring actual integrity?
Yes, of course it is. It's in practice. That's what it always is going to be about. Like, what is the intention? The intention first is what's in practice. So it is supposed to bring integrity. It's supposed to bring all of these different. That's why we have all of these ERGs and all of these committees, because we're supposed to be striving to be better in whatever we're doing. But what happens in practice, right? The integrity becomes window dressing. Nothing happens. Nothing changes. So it's not. It's yes, the intention, or it's just like when we always talk about case law, or when we're talking about various issues, we say the founding fathers. This is what the founding fathers meant. This is what we think the founding fathers mean, and all of this. And so we use this to argue to either keep the status quo, or we argue it to move things forward. So of course, I believe that integrity is, could have been the intention, but the ultimate goal, yes, can be the ultimate goal. But what happens in practice, or what happens along the way,
is very different.
That's different. Fran, there's nothing more that needs to be said on that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Actually, I wanted to ask one of the folks in the Just Ask tool asked, what does ERG stand for?
Oh,
employee resource groups.
There you go, employee resource groups. So everybody that we've been talking about ERGs, employee resource groups.
Right.
So when you listen to this again, and another question asked, will this be available to listen to afterwards? Absolutely. For all of you that registered and are watching it, you're going to get a link to this video afterwards so that you can rewatch. But ERG, there you go. So I wanted to jump into a few more questions. We're coming up about 12 minutes left, so we're going to try to go through a few more of these. Here's a question that I wanted to ask. Not to get personal, but can you share any experiences of discrimination or inhumane treatment you have been through? If this is too personal, I completely understand, but I'm wanting to understand to learn, not to pry.
So when I started at at one of the companies that I've worked for, I'm at times very masculine presenting. I love a good bow tie for a pop of color and a cute pant. Okay. I heard from someone that they had gathered the women and told them to make sure not to be caught in spaces alone with me because I'm gay, and you don't want to subject yourself to that sort of thing. She's gay, be safe, don't be caught alone with her. And then I immediately told them that I have taste and none of you are it. You have nothing to worry about. I pulled out a picture of my ex-girlfriend and was like, you know what? See, like, model. That's not you. You're good.
Golly.
On the other side of that, it hurt.
Yeah.
Because I'm love. It's me. I'm just going to laugh, say something funny, and I'm going to be present, and I'm going to love you as a human being. There's no motive or any ulterior motive, none of that. Listen, Not you, boo. Not looking for you. You good.
Wow.
We have taste. You're not with everybody. Neither are we.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of a hurdle to get over, because that hurt, because I was just being kind. I wasn't, there to do anything else but do my job and be kind. So
Yeah. Thank you.
Interesting.
Thankfully I work in, I have my own practice. So I've had my own practice for a long time. And so I haven't worked, for anyone. When I was younger, I worked at a restaurant, and I was working as a drive-through cashier. And so that was just, I was reprimanded. At the time, I wasn't even really out, but somebody said that they wanted to get that, that they need to get that dike out of the window. And my manager, instead of kind of being consoling or something, especially since I didn't really know what was going on, then I kind of got reprimanded about the way I looked or the way I dressed. It was very kind of demeaning. And so I am, that moment I was hurt. It was a very time I was younger. And so I haven't experienced discrimination in the workplace in my profession because of this. Now, have I lost clients because of it? Because of me being out? Maybe. But I haven't had a boss. So that's why I say I haven't experienced discrimination in that way. But I have countless stories, countless anecdotes of clients that have come, of people that we know that have. So it does exist, even though the data sometimes doesn't reflect.
Wow. I think we have time for, first of all, thank you for sharing your stories. I think we have time for just a few more questions, maybe two more, and then we'll wrap everything up for this conversation. First question is, as an equity advocate, what is the best approach to tackle educational equity? Many are resistant despite the research that gaps exist. Any thoughts that we can add to that?
We always talk about funding, right? It's where, you talk about how funding in certain schools and in certain areas, as we see these neighborhoods, because if you have access in your neighborhoods and in all of this, and you have this money, then you're able to put into the schools. And then when you put into the schools, you're able to build up, people are able to move forward, right? And so what are we doing? Are we really drilling down and studying what is happening in the neighborhoods and in the places where there is economic disadvantage, where there's an economic downturn from lack of businesses, from food deserts, from all this, because people can't put money into the neighborhoods to build up to get that. So it really starts at the foundation of our, I think part of it, it's always going to be multifaceted, but part of it is looking at the economic empowerment in neighborhoods, in traditionally, places where we're not seeing things being built up, because then we're not putting those funds in there. And then we're getting these scores, and we're on these scoring systems and all of this. So I think it really is about, it really is about economics and really driving, it says that by 2050, Black people will have no wealth. And so if you're looking at building a foundation, we need to start with making sure that there is funding in these places to ensure that we have the quality of schools.
It all comes back to the dollars. Always back to the dollars. Sadly, in a lot of those neighborhoods, like, there's no ownership. You can look out and it's crime ridden because there are no opportunities. There's no up in those communities. So a lot of people lose hope. I tie it back also to voting. Your local elections are important. Get out there and see what these people stand for, and make your needs known, and work to get a commitment for them. Make them work for their vote. If our community is going to vote for you, you have to tell us and follow through with what you're going to do for our community.
Right.
So that is a huge part of it for me. If you don't see someone stepping up and working to create the change that you want, then you step up, learn what you got to learn, and go stand for those people. They need you. If you're acknowledging this in your community, You need to be the one that's on that ballot because you came from there. You know what you need.
Yeah.
Work to be that change. Vote.
Yeah.
Love
I mean, you hear so much about how people said, I left as fast as I could. I left as fast as I could. I left as fast as I could. What would happen if there was incentive, or if there were ways that there was really intentional action to ensure that businesses are built up in the neighborhoods, that the schools are taken care of in the neighborhoods, that folks would end up not wanting to run out, but they just build upon that, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it can't be that the way to build up the neighborhood is to revitalize and then
That
which
means
actually means
Yeah.
gentrification.
Yeah. Coded language. Coded
language, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. What people don't realize, throughout history, our communities were self-sustaining.
Yes.
Everything we needed was in our community, mainly because of segregation. But that was a beautiful thing about it. We had our own doctors, our grocery stores. I mean, our dollar changed hands, 100% before it left our community? Like now, it's 1 because we don't own anything in our community, and that was intentional.
Yeah.
Even in those communities, we get self-sustaining, we do really well, and then you have a mob for some weird reason will come in and burn it down. I mean, look at Black Wall Street, a prime example of that. They call in the National Guard. The National Guard joins into the looting and the destruction and murder. And what do you have going through that community right now? A highway. And not one Black person was compensated for their land.
Jesus.
So getting people that exist in those communities to get back to that way of thinking, of ownership, of being self-sustaining. Now, there is a fear that exists around it because those communities have been destroyed. They're always tearing them down, burning them down, destroying them. But I think now is a good time to get back to that. Buy your community back. Normally, because communities like that are in prime real estate areas. They're mostly located downtown. So if you get with a couple of friends, buy that property, build it up, give people an opportunity to own something. People care about things that they own. You can revitalize your own community. All it takes is one person, or 2 or 3.
Or 3, yeah.
And I want to say thank you again. I knew this would happen. We knew that this would happen. We're closing in on just a minute left for our conversation. But we have talked about so many wonderful things, so many things that are important, so many things that are challenging. And as we have discussed this, a vast majority of our conversations on this Just Ask tool has been like, so true, I'm getting chills. This is awesome. This is amazing. It's powerful. And I just want to say thank you both for taking the time to talk about this and to bring this this conversation up and to be willing to engage in this moment. And so again, I want to say thank you as we wrap up. A few closing thoughts. First, we are going to be providing this webinar for everybody that registered. And we're also going to be sharing some links to find out more information and to engage with Kanithea and Fran so that we can keep this conversation going and keep things moving. We'll also be providing some resources and some other tools that you can use, and a link to get these shirts. They're pretty cool. But again, ladies, I just want to say thank you so much for the time that you have taken today, and want to offer up any last thoughts or just a moment to share anything else that you have on your minds and hearts before we close.
Fran?
I would just say, the work continues, right? We like every win is a win. Every time we move forward, it's something. And knowing that this conversation here, it shows that it's not just outside of the workplace, but it's within the workplace, and it's all of us getting together as a coalition. Because I got the word now.
You got the word. That's it.
and working together. And so I just say the work continues. We keep moving. We find your village and keep going.
I love it. Thank you.
I want to say quickly to all of my LGBTQ brothers and sisters and in-betweens, I love you. You're amazing beings. You're worthy. You're enough. You don't need to explain your existence to anyone. Walk in your truth. Be you. You came here to evolve, to unfold, and deliver something beautiful to this world. We need what you're carrying. We need your gifts. Give it to us in your own unique way. You're the only one that can create like you. We need it. We're waiting for it. Give it to us. You're beautiful, and I love you.
Thank you so much. That's it. That's the close right there.
That's how you do that. That's a word. That's a word right there.
That'll preach. That'll preach. All right. Thank you both again. Everybody, it's 10:01 a.m. Here in Central Standard Time. And I want to say thank you for the conversation. Thank you to all of those who are watching online, who asked questions. I know we couldn't get to all the questions, but again, this conversation was phenomenal. Thank you both, and we'll see everybody soon.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.